Hi, hey, and hello there. Obi-Han here, and welcome back to the Comic High Ground. Alright, now, you've heard me talk about this before, and it's only fitting that I did a video to cover it because, yes, Spider-Man 94 number 1 came out today. Now, of course, I did a video a few weeks ago, probably a month ago, talking about how it was kind of a fraud comic, and I'm kind of sticking by that, but I went on ahead and read the first issue and was like, okay, obviously I talked about Spider-Man 94, Spider-Man 94 enough, so I gotta talk about it. But there's a little snippet in the comic that gave me a little hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll do something with the show. Might be copium, but you know, we're gonna try to stay positive. So with this video, there's not gonna be any script. I didn't really jot down too many notes or anything. I'm just going off the dome. So this isn't professional or anything. This is just Obi-Han rambling. But I'm gonna tell you about the story. So the story starts off, obviously, well, not obviously. The story starts off with Kane, and Morlun is telling him to pretty much find the totem, if you will. And Kane is kind of telling him, is like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go find him. And then we cut to Peter and Mary Jane, which I'm gonna assume this is literally right when they came back from whatever adventure happened when Peter went to go find Mary Jane. And there's a conversation that they have. First of all, they land and they're all happy, or Peter's all happy and Mary Jane is happy, and then she asks Peter to marry her, and Peter's like, I mean, we already married. And Mary Jane's like, that wasn't me, that was a clone. And he's like, I mean, yeah, but everybody here is you know, to the world, we're married already. And so Mary Jane kind of senses some type of hesitance in Peter, and she gets a little snappy and she walks off. They're on a rooftop, so she actually goes through like this entrance and storms off. This is kind of in character for this Mary Jane, because she could be a firecracker when she wanted to. So no complaints there. I will, however, complain constantly have drawn Peter in this comic. That is not Peter Parker. That is not what he looks like. And I will complain if I continue to cover the series, which I might. I will complain for as long as this not Peter Parker looks like this. Look at this. This is not Peter Parker. This is not the 90s Peter Parker. He doesn't even have any muscle. Alright, okay. Alright, yeah, I'm rambling. So Peter decides to go on back home while Mary Jane's cooling off. And actually we cut to this meeting that's going on with, I think it's called Sims Corp or something like that, and it's basically Ezekiel Sims. If you don't know anything about Ezekiel Sims, basically he was a big part of the Morlun storyline and everything way back, like 20 years ago now. You know, back when they were telling good Spider-Man stories. Ezekiel was a big part of the Inheritor storyline and everything, but we'll see. I don't want to talk too much about him right now because I don't quite know how they're gonna handle him yet. But he's on his like video call, and then his video call cuts out, and then we cut to Kane, and he's talking to Morlun. So Morlun apparently was in this cocoon of sorts, and Kane finally let him out, and he's all malnourished and everything. So Morlun is like, you need to find my spider totem, but I need to feed. So and regular human beings aren't gonna work. So I need something else. And then Kane was like, I got you. Then he apparently has caught or kidnapped Vermin, and this character never showed up in the show, so that's kind of a new thing. Of course, Ezekiel and Morlun didn't either, but you get my point. So Morlun proceeds to eat. I can't talk, people. Morlun proceeds to eat Vermin, and it kind of recharges him some. But then we cut back to Peter, and Mary Jane's kind of showed up to Aunt May's house and that next morning, and Aunt May's like, oh, where were you? We were worried about you. And she kind of storms through the door, and she's like, where's Peter? And she's like, well, if you watch the show, you know how Aunt May and everybody talk. That's something I noticed. I will give the writer this much: the characters talk like they do in the show, because Aunt May said something along the lines of, the poor deer was so worried about you, he was exhausted, something along those lines. So Mary Jane storms up there and yanks the sheets off of him, and they had this whole conversation. And it turns out Peter is having like these slight reservations, because he's like, look, Mary Jane, I thought I had found you before, and then it was a clone, and then I had this whole traumatic experience with this clone, and then it's like, but I also had to realize that you were still missing Mary Jane, so it's this whole safety thing, you know. I'm worried about safety, and then Mary Jane kind of reassures him and everything because she's like, "You're running around in Spider-Man, so yeah, I'm going to be worried about you too." And before I continue, I did skip the little snippet I was talking about. They had mentioned earlier when they were on their rooftop that they went through a lot of struggles to get her back. They reference this dangerous, crazy stuff they went through. And there's like this little editor's note that says whatever is kind of, it basically says, you know, whatever they went through, we will cover that later, like much later on or something like that. So they didn't reference or talk about how they would cover it, but they definitely give an editor's note like, hey, we're going to cover how he saved Mary Jane. And I'm hoping what that means, because if they didn't have this writer do it and they just skip right to Mary Jane being saved already, I'm hoping that means they might go ahead and ink some type of deal with Semper, and maybe we can get some type of, I would rather not be a comic, I'm gonna be honest. If we can't get a show, then you need to give us a movie. Give us like a feature-length animated movie. Put it on, you can go straight to Disney Plus. But give us a movie of a continuation of what happened when he went to go look for Mary Jane. That would be another good way of handling it. Which is, that little editor's note is the main reason I went on ahead and rushed to go ahead and do this video. But fast forwarding back to their conversation, Peter is reassured, and so they're all cheering and stuff. And Peter's like, Aunt May, we're married, and he's like, well, I mean, you knew that already, but you know, we're so happy, we're ecstatic, we're married, you know, we're married. And Aunt May just kind of looking like, isn't that nice? And again, if you know the Aunt May from this series, she's not really expressive. Like, Aunt May is like chill for the most, except for when it comes to like Spider-Man or Danger, of course. But for the most part, Aunt May is like chill all the time. Like Aunt Mary Jane's Aunt Anna will talk all kinds of crap about Peter, and Aunt May is just kind of like, she'll speak up on his behalf, but she's so chill about it, you know. It's just kind of funny how she is. But we cut to after that. Peter's kind of on this patrol. He ends up taking on Molten Man, and he's pretty much going about his usual routine, I guess. He's talking, monologuing, and I would give the writer this, because I think they said this writer wrote one episode of the show, but the way he writes Peter's inner monologue, any Spider-Man is going to have any inner monologue, especially Peter. But the way he talks, it sounds, it's like, if this makes any sense, it sounds or structured how Christopher Daniel Barnes would talk in these episodes. So I will give them that. He pretty much takes down Molten Man. The police show up and they're like, you know, thanks for the help, Spider-Man. And he says, you know, like, I'm not worried about what the bugle says. You're cool. So Peter's kind of patting himself on the back, but then he has this weird feeling like he's being watched, but his spider sense didn't go off. So he just kind of like, okay, whatever. So he goes back home, and while he's home, he has this dinner with Mary Jane and Aunt May, and then they invite Mary Jane's Aunt Anna. So Mary Jane and Peter are living with Aunt May, and it's been a while since I watched the last 2 seasons of Spider-Man 94. I could have sworn, and in the comments, let me know if I'm wrong, but I could have sworn they had an apartment after they got married, because I remember Felicia coming to visit Peter at this apartment, like, right? I don't think it was a hotel. When Mary Jane was snatched up by Hydro Man in that episode, Peter was all upset, and Felicia came to visit him. And I thought it was a apartment, but I don't know. I might have to go back and look at it. But in any case, they're staying with Aunt May until they can find somewhere to live. And you have Aunt Anna, who's like, you can't stay here. How long are y'all gonna stay here under May's roof? And again, true to form, the characters are acting like the characters, because Aunt Anna was not someone who was a fan favorite at all back then. Honestly, she was annoying as heck, and she's annoying as heck here. So she has her jabs at Peter. Then they have dinner, and Peter kind of comments on how nice it is to have a dinner, because he's narrating in his head the whole time, and they have like I think it's Aunt May's famous famous meatloaf, and then he stands up to like give this speech about how thankful he and Mary Jane are for having May and Anna in their lives, and at that point he's kind of startled or distracted because again he has this feeling like he's being watched. Then all of a sudden Kane bursts through the window and he's coming at Peter. And again, I'm gonna keep saying this. I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. This is ripped straight from that show, because in Peter's head, when Kane bursts through there, he's like, "Not here, not now." If you watch that show, you know that was a line that he said a lot. Whenever something had, particularly around people he cared about, or it was just obviously just at the wrong time, Christopher Daniel Barnes would say that line, "Not here, not now." And that I appreciate it, because again, the writer did his homework, or at the very least he remembered. If he did truly write an episode, he remembered what it was like when he was working on it. So Kane rolls up to Peter and he's like, "Yeah, you're the totem. My master, my father, whatever wants you, and we're going." So he snatches Peter up and jumps out of the window. And so Peter, at this point, he's in his head. He's like, okay, he clearly knows who I am. So there's no point in trying to hide or pretend that I'm not Spider-Man, because they're out in the air at this point, jumping around. And Peter's like, okay, so that also means there's no need for me not to put my suit on. I mean, for me not to, there's no need for me to hold back, because he was, Peter pulls his punches, and he could tell how strong Kane was. So Peter puts his costume on. They get to fighting. Again, Peter's kind of yapping and talking the whole time, and also inner monologuing. And then Kane ends up getting the upper hand on him, and he kind of beats him to the ground. But and he kind of talks some noise too, because he's like, "I don't know why you would be the totem, or what makes you special," or something along those lines. And then Peter kind of says, it's like, basically, I have people I need to protect. He's like, "I just got Mary Jane back, and I'm not going to allow something to happen again." So while he's saying all this, Kane kind of has this cloud memory of Mary Jane. It's like he sees her in the clouds. And I say clouds, it's more so like, it's probably like smoke or something. And I don't think Peter himself, I don't think Peter can see it, but he knows that something's going on with Kane. So I think Peter hits Kane a few good times, and then Kane kind of dips because he says something about, he's muttering to himself, because he's like, what are these feelings and memories or whatever, and he runs off. So Peter's just like, "Oh, okay, all right, well, I mean, I deal with that later. I'm going to go home." Kane is kind of like, "I don't know what just happened. I don't know what these feelings were. I don't know what the feelings were. I don't know what I don't." And he didn't mention memories, but what I'm gonna guess is that somehow, because of his close proximity to Peter, he must have kind of gotten some of Peter's memories of Mary Jane, and that's what attacked him. That's the only thing I can think of. But he does say, he's like, "Yeah, Moreland's gonna be pissed," and pretty much heads on back. Peter is picked up by the police. He changes back to civilians, and the police bring him back home. And Mary Jane was basically like, "I was so worried about you." And then Aunt Anna is like, "You need to," because he tells them that it's because of his connection to Spider-Man that Kane wanted Spider-Man, and he was trying to draw him out, and then Spider-Man did save him. And Aunt Anna is like, "Look, you and this connection with Spider-Man it needs to stop, because you can't be putting Mary Jane in danger." And she goes on this rant. But, and again, I'll give them brownie points for this. Mary Jane actually goes off, because she would always be like, "Aunt Anna," when she would talk about Peter in the show. But this time, Mary Jane was like, "Look, you're gonna stop talking about and disrespecting Peter, otherwise you can get to stepping." And Anna leaves. So that obviously is like a natural progression, because Mary Jane was always kind of, she would never tell her, because she told her to shut up in this, but she would never tell her to shut up per se. She'd just be like, "Can you chill?" But she actually got mad at her this time. So it's good character progression, especially everything they've been through. And then we cut to Kane and Moreland, like, "You failed. We ain't having that. I'm hungry." So Kane is like, look, I'm sorry. Look, I'll find you something to eat. And Moreland's like, nah, you good. And so he eats Kane. And then he goes to this lab, and it turns out we have like these different Kane clones, I'm assuming, because there's like these pods. And he's like, he's going to make another one or something like that, and they're going to go after Peter. So that's pretty much where the comic closes out. And again, I read the writer's, I think the writer's note or the editor's note, and he goes on this long story about how he's a fan of the 90 series and everything. But he said, one thing he said was that Moreland, Kane, and Ezekiel Sims, yeah, they're not what we think they are from the comics. So there's probably going to be some type of twist. So we'll see what that is. But aside from that, yeah, that was the comic. So looking forward to seeing how that's going to go at the very least. So I'll keep on covering it for now. But in the meantime, let me know what you thought of it. Do you think they're gonna bring back the original writer so we can actually get the story? We gonna, and by writer I mean Semper. Do you think they're gonna get him back so we can get the story, or do you think they're gonna just do what they're doing? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you thought about how they handled this issue. Does it seem like the show to you, or not? We will see how they move forward with it. But hit that like button. Subscribe for more, and remember, we had the high ground. Catch you later.